Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
So the rest of the cabinet wasn't much better, staring blankly as they watched that slip up. I thought they had some pretty good poker faces.
It wasn't too bad, actually.
I mean, cringing on the inside, but on the outside, they know the cameras are on them, and they just held form.
They're like, oh, it's fine. Everything's fine.
That's right. I got 2 pair and an ace high, and I'm going with it.
Some of the posts on X, Jake Sullivan doesn't have a good poker face, and I think this was the moment Jake Sullivan died inside.
May have, but again, he did well.
I don't know if you listened to Jamie Harrison of the DNC. He said that Joe Biden gave a masterclass in press conferences.
I got you.
Of course, America can't unsee what they saw in the debate, and they can't unsee what they saw in this press conference. And it's certainly there's confusion going on, but the bigger confusion is that he may be confused that he's actually capable of doing the job. But we know that he's surrounded by people that are co-conspirators in this thing.
Republicans ripping President Biden's defiant press conference, but do top Democrats think it helped? CNN reports former President Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have spoken privately about Biden's campaign, and those in touch with both reportedly say the end of Biden's candidacy is now a matter of when and not if.
A reporter just absolutely destroyed White House Press Secretary Karine-Jean-Pierre. The White House has done its best to minimize the damage of President Joe Biden's debate against Donald Trump. However, they're facing a lot of scrutiny right now from the press corps as they believe that they've been bamboozled. Yep. So now we've heard the same story over and over and over. The president is fine. You know, he's ready to lead for 4 more years. But his showing in this recent debate really shows a different story, right? One that has actually created a common concern from Americans across the nation. Now, it's no secret that we're seeing conflict around the globe. We've got problems with Ukraine, Europe, Russia, Israel, Hamas, all these different groups that are at war. Meanwhile, the guy who's supposed to be keeping things in check, he can't even get through a simple sentence. And this is what Peter Doocy asked Jean-Pierre. It's something that all of us want to know right now. Is the president capable of leading the country given his clear mental deterioration? Now, there's no love lost here between Karine-Jean-Pierre and Peter Doocy. So it's kind of normal to see a little bit of friction every now and then, but this is almost on another level here. And Peter Doocy he's been known to be a guy who pushes questions that most of us actually want the answer to. So check out their brief exchange in this recent press briefing. Before we go, if you guys take a second, if you appreciate the content, hit the like button for the video. And I want to thank y'all so much for subscribing to the channel. You guys are absolutely amazing. And quick question for you. For those of you guys who shop on Amazon, list the last 3 things that you've purchased down in the comments down below.
Does President Biden commit to serving a full second term if reelected?
Yes.
Thank you. We know the president says that his health is fine, but it's just his brain, and that he's sharpest before.
He was joking, by the way. I just want to make sure that that's out there. And he was making a lighthearted joke as he was speaking off. He's speaking off the cuff, and he was making a joke. You know the president; he likes to joke a lot. He's the same guy who says, "I know I look 40," right? So he likes to make jokes. It is a joke. I think people laugh when he says it.
Well, he also said he's sharpest before 8 p.m. So say that the Pentagon at some point picks up an incoming nuke. It's 11 p.m. Who do you call? The First Lady?
He has a team that lets him know of any news that is pertinent and important to the American people. He has someone that is decided, obviously, with his National Security Council on who gets to tell him that news.
So Kevin McCarthy just said that when he was the speaker, many times when we had meetings in the Oval Office, Jill was there as well. When the First Lady's in these meetings, is she making decisions or is she just advising the president?
No, the president is the president of the United States. He makes decisions.
Okay. Another family member. President Biden has told me before, he and his son don't have any business dealings together. So what is Hunter Biden doing in White House meetings?
Are you talking about the meeting where they came together from Camp David and the 2 of them walked to the president's meeting and he was there?
There's a report that aides were struck by his presence during their discussions.
look, I can't. I'm certainly not going to get into private conversations that occur. What I can say is, and I spoke to this before, is that when they came back from Camp David, the president spent a couple of days at Camp David with his family. He is very close to his family, as you know. It was the week of 4th of July, which is why his family members were here last week. They walked together, and they walked together into the meeting.
Can you say if Hunter Biden has access to classified information?
No.
Now, here's something that we need to consider. The entire country is worried about his mental capabilities. Now, you would think that he would be serious about this kind of topic. And I get that Karine-Jean-Pierre is just trying to protect her boss by saying that it's a joke, but it's really distasteful, right? Especially given the scenario that we're in right now. His numbers are just dropping in the polls. It's precipitous at this point. And at the same time, the trust in him is fleeting. And it's not just from Republicans and independent voters, guys. Democrats are starting to feel a little bit uneasy about this 2024 presidential election. Some of them are now leaning towards voting red because they're worried about President Joe Biden's well-being. It's a genuine concern. And I also can't skip the fact that we're being told that both Jill Biden and Hunter Biden were in these meetings. So the real question is, why is Joe Biden and Hunter Biden attending these meetings? I know it's a crazy idea. And, this is why the president is getting criticized. Many analysts believe that the First Lady, Joe Biden, is just simply babysitting the president. And it's her husband. It makes sense. But should he be president of the United States is a real question, right? And so this is why, she's in these meetings. And this is why the president has had Joe Biden so close to him during this entire campaign. And we're not even going to get too deep into why Hunter Biden is getting into these meetings when we all know he's a bad apple for sure. And is Hunter Biden still using crack? I mean, y'all let me know in the comments. Now, Karine-Jean-Pierre is taking the heat for some time now, as the president refuses to face the press in a lot of these different situations that would deprive him of the benefit of having a teleprompter. And as we all know, these press briefings are typically impromptu and they're done in rapid fire. But even then, it can go on for a little bit as everybody wants to get their questions answered. So how long do you think one of these briefings would be if President Joe Biden himself actually faced the press? Now, I know that Donald Trump, he's done this before, and the same could be said for Barack Obama and many other presidents, right? President Biden, on the other hand, though, he's mostly ignored it throughout his term, which now brings me to a challenge that the president chose to take on, the challenge of a solo news conference. Now, this is a very high stakes moment for the president, as he definitely needs to show that he can answer questions without a script. Now, the risk is that he could very well end his presidential aspirations right here. And like I said, guys, he hasn't held many of these press conferences, but if he did, then, they were in very controlled settings with questions being filtered and fielded beforehand, meaning that he had access to what these people would ask him, and he would be able to have answers prepared well before the event. Believe it or not, though, this is only the 15th time that he's doing this in almost 4 years, 15 times in 4 years. That's not a lot, making it seem as if he's essentially avoiding the press on purpose, and for good reason, as we all know. If we look at June 13th, for example, the June 13th news conference where President Joe Biden was asked about a possible Israel-Hamas ceasefire. This was done together with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, so it's pretty clear that the focus was on Ukraine. So essentially, President Biden was so frustrated that he told off this reporter for going off topic. So you can't handle going off script. Interesting. Saying that he essentially wishes that the press would, quote, play by the rules. Now, this alone has some experts worried that this news conference could be the same deal, that the questions will be fielded beforehand and that the president would have, he would have full control as to what he would be asked. So my question is, do you guys believe that this would count as an unscripted press conference? I mean, it surely doesn't seem like it would count to me if you know what the questions are going to be beforehand. Anyway, it's fake. It's fake at the end of the day. Now, speaking of which, former President Donald Trump is ramping up his campaign with speaking engagements, doing the exact opposite of what Joe Biden's doing. And many are pleased to see Donald Trump speak freely and be as spontaneous as he typically is in all of these different rallies. And in a recent interview, Donald Trump, he spoke about the possibility of keeping Joe Biden in this race. Now, many critics believe that this isn't the best idea for Democrats. Now, I cover this in a lot more detail in the previous video that you guys should definitely check out. But anyway, before I go, I just want want to thank y'all so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and I will see you guys on the next one.